Okay, there we go. There we go. So we are live. We are live. Good morning, good night, good evening, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to another live stream. This is something that actually yesterday I had a conversation. Well, let me just wait a little. Let me wait. Give you guys like 60 seconds. They're about to hop on. Hey, what's up, Andrew? How you doing? How are you doing? Let me give you guys 60 seconds, right? Good morning. If you don't know me, my name is Ranzo. Um, Welcome if you're new to this YouTube channel. I am in Japan. Yes, I am in Japan. Where are you guys watching from? Where are you guys watching from? Where are you watching from? This is something, well, let me just give you guys a backstory really quickly. So I had a discussion, a conversation yesterday, on well, more for discussion on Clubhouse, right? Some of you guys might know the Clubhouse application. You can follow us there at the Black EXJP, THEBlackEXJP. All right, and Clubhouse is pretty cool. However, I think it can be an enemy of your productivity, depending on what you do, right? So you find yourself spending way more time than you should on Clubhouse, right? So that's my take on Clubhouse. It's definitely a yeah, it's not that great for productivity. If you're driving, it's fine. If you're running, it's fine. Stuff like that. But if you got to work, it's not that great. Okay, so there was a conversation I had. It was sort of impromptu. The subject matter was something else, and we kind of went into talking about um, life imitating art, and it's something that I'm pretty passionate about. But every time I've had this conversation in times past, specifically two separate conversations I've actually had about this. But I've actually spoken about this thing a lot because I was in entertainment a long time ago. I'm also a big fan of music. I do music. Well, did music. Right now, I don't do music presently. But I was big into listening to music. I knew a lot of celebrities back in Jamaica, for instance. I would write my own songs, go to the studio, do the songs, perform music, whatever. And so I'm really, really passionate about music as an art form or art overall, expressions of art, artistic expressions. And this ties into, even because while I was talking, in that conversation on Clubhouse yesterday, uh, it kind of, uh, this is the thing with Clubhouse. I don't like the fact that you can't record, the conversations, right? Because sometimes those gem moments that sort of spring out of the conversation, you can't immortalize that or record it and keep it, just for later use or posterity, whatever, right? So that's one thing about Clubhouse. One downside of that, you're in the midst of a conversation. But I guess that's how conversations happen in real life. You're talking to someone, something happens, that naturally you're not going to record a conversation if you're talking with a friend, right? So I guess that's the sort of environment that Clubhouse cultivates. But nonetheless, what happened was the mission that we have here at BEJ, or at the Best Stories TV, lambasting the negative stereotypes of Black people globally. I realized that, while talking about life imitating art, because that's my position. Of course, I think, of course, art still imitates life to some degree, but I think that was more, I guess, back in the past, art imitated life more so, and then in present day, I think life imitates art, and I think there's a level of responsibility that one should have when it comes on to I guess your not necessarily maybe your process of creation or the created work. And let me kind of just show you guys where this sort of like intersected with the work that I'm doing on BEJ, for instance. I talk about, I guess maybe I might be jumping ahead of myself here, but I guess I'll just touch on this a little bit and get back to this later on in this discussion, right? Um, I talk about the media, right? All forms of media and the sort of damage that this has done to the image of Black people globally, right? So we look at media as, um, historically speaking, as the enemy, right? The enemy of the image of Black people, the Black woman, the Black man, the Black race overall. So we look at it from that, vantage point, right? And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do what I'm doing. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do what you guys know me for, because the media, every time I looked, I would see, I've repeated myself 10,000 times, so you guys have heard this numerous times, that media is partially to be blamed for the way people receive us in other parts of the world, because the relationship that people have with the Black people, some people actually, a large percentage of the populace of the world, right, the population of the world, it's through the screen, off late social media, movies, TV shows, videos, even books, articles, etc., etc., etc. So that's the relationship that the people have, right? The only way that they were able to, I guess, to, well, not really interact with Black people, right? I guess sort of artificially interact with Black people would be through the screen. So media did a number on Black people, right? Okay, cool. So that's one position I take. Now, when it comes on to life imitating art, man, there's just so many layers to this thing, man. So many layers. But I'm gonna start off, and then of course I'll open the floor for people to come on and share their position. Most of the time when I talk about this, the position that the other person has is that, you know what, listen, man, it's creative expression. I'm speaking my truth, which of course is not always the case, right? If you guys know anything about music, for instance, and the way people write songs, it at times has nothing to do with that individual story, personal story. Sometimes the lyrics are fabricated. What I mean by that is, someone is writing about just some fictitious event or occurrence or something. They just make up some stuff. And people also say it sounds cool, right? It sounds cool to write, to rhyme about this or to rhyme about that. And I understand. And the thing is, I'm coming from a place where, I was the dude that was, back in the day, my mom wasn't a supporter of my my musical pursuits. Like in Jamaica, it's mostly dancehall music, and I also I was also a lover of hip hop as well, so I would do both, and I would spend hours freestyling this system in close to where we lived. And my mom wasn't a fan; she was more a fan of academia. Like parents all over the world. That's what they're for. So she wasn't a fan of that, but I was a massive fan of music, writing songs, going to the studio, doing all that good stuff. So I understand the process. I understand what it means to be inspired by artists, right? You look up to people, you're inspired by them. And sometimes your style in terms of the music or the art, in whatever shape or form it is, there are some similarities. Because you're looking at a person that you were inspired by, so for instance, when people write lyrics, and my problem is this, when this is where I think there should be some responsibility. And I was talking to the person yesterday about this on Clubhouse, and the good thing is, they recognized, they saw the problem, and they said, well, how can we find a balance, right? Because there is a thing called freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So like, where do you draw the line when someone wants to create and express, something artistically? Like, where do you draw the line? My main gripe or gross is with lyrics that promote violence. One, we can also talk about songs that go deep into well, I guess this might be a pain point for people, but nonetheless, that promote a promiscuous lifestyle. Um, Primarily, violence is one of the things that I think I understand more, in the sense that in Jamaica, or you guys hear it in songs all across the world, hip hop. You guys hear it in dancehall music, and the artist would write songs that's glorifying violence. Like just glorifying violence, and a lot of people say, "Well, hey, it does nothing to the listener. The listener is it's like it's not the responsibility of the person that's creating to think about the possible effects of what their lyrics will do to the person that's listening." And I say there are two categories of listeners, maybe more, but you have people who are malleable, people with impressionable minds, the youth, of course, and then you have people who are able to withstand the music and just, like, I guess, just appreciate the person's creativity, the ability, to flow on the beat a certain way, to rhyme and do all that good stuff. But I said, and this is my position as a person that writes songs as well, it's like, you don't have to sing about violence, someone killing someone, and all these, whatever way you want to create the song or write it. If you are a lyricist, if you're a person that's an artist and you have the gift, that specific talent or gift, you can create anything. You can write any song about anything and it sounds amazing, right? There's no, it's like because that's the thing. I feel like that's what a lot of people say, man, I just like the lyrics. Sometimes it's the beat. You get a good instrumental and then you write a song to that instrumental. But the problem is what the person chooses. Now, man, there's just so many levels to this art, to this thing. There's so many levels, man. It's like there's just so many things in my head. But let me try to get this out, because I just wanted to just bring this to YouTube, just so that to give people at least some things to think about. If you are a creative, a person musically, or if you make movies or whatever it is that you do, you decide what you create, right? You decide what you create. And there is a level of responsibility, I think, because I think it's hypocritical for myself or someone else to talk about the number that media has done on Black people, right, or the world overall, and not hold ourselves responsible when it comes on to what we ourselves create and put out into the world. My position is that first of all, media is extremely powerful in whatever form, right? Video, audio, the written word, whatever, photos, you name it. Media is extremely powerful. So let's just put that on the table so we understand this. Cool. And it does not discriminate, right? So it doesn't matter if you are the person that created something versus someone else, or what your form of expression looks like versus someone else's form of expression. If we are going to hold, the movie producers and, all these filmmakers, etc., in Hollywood and elsewhere, that create these movies that show Black people in a certain light that actually affects people, right? So that, right, if we're going to hold them to that standard, we also need to hold ourselves as well to a higher standard, or the same standard. Because the thing is this, right? We understand that if the image of Black people is affected by what people view in media, Black people themselves, yes, we're also affected by it. And people who see it as well, are also affected by it, right? So if we say that this is true, a factual statement, media, we know. I live in Japan. I travel throughout Asia. The response that we get comes from somewhere, right? A seed was planted, usually in some form, inculcation, whatever, media, family, blah, 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 blah. Media plays a big role. Cool. So we see the impact of that. We see the effect of that. So if movies have that, music videos have that, it means that media Someone can watch something, listen to something, and it affects them positively or negatively. You understand? My position, as I said earlier, is that life these days imitate art more than art imitating life. So I think because of that, there needs to be a greater level of responsibility when it comes down to what we produce, what we write, what we create, because music, words, even videos, movies, right? I can't, man, it's so, and there's just so much. It's just like, this is something that it's, there's just so much. I'm just going to try to get it out. I know people are coming onto the line. I just saw someone hop on just now, but just let me just get this set the stage first. And then we can talk about that. I want to get these thoughts out. Um, Let me give you an example. Right, in Jamaica, you guys know dancehall music is very influential across the world, right? So dancehall music very influential, hip hop very influential, no doubt about it, right? Of course, not everyone that listens to those songs are gonna go out and do stuff. But one practice I could say, like for instance, in Jamaica, someone would see a movie, right? The crime rate in Jamaica is very high, very, very high. In Jamaica, being a bad man or being, a gangster or whatever, and not just Jamaica, you look at people view you as being cool. Oh, yeah, this person is cool. People aspire to be that way. Not everyone, but it's glorified and promoted in the media, in music. We know it, we see it. So a movie would come out, right? And when the movie comes out, it would be a movie about maybe some killing, maybe a sort of like John Wick type movie, like let's just say John Wick for example, right? 2 3 weeks pass in the news. If there was an unusual way or creative way that a person was killed, you hear in the news that someone was killed just like what they saw in the movie. So if someone, just let's just say, I know this might be a little bit graphic, a person was decapitated a certain way, then you hear in the media, the news, someone died that way because someone saw the movie. They're in this type of, that's how they live their life. They're like, criminal, whatever. And then they decide that, what, hey, I'm inspired by this thing. Look at this. And they did it. Or someone, made a song, in Jamaica, talking about just glorifying violence, not sharing his story. I grew up in the inner city in Jamaica. Like I've seen crazy things. It's most people from inner city Jamaica. You've seen a lot of stuff. It's, yeah, you've seen a lot of stuff. Whatever. Some people live it. Some people witness it. And then you'd hear songs that people would create and produce, right? And then someone would listen to that song and they would get just energized by it. And they would go out and engage in all sorts of activities because someone created a song glorifying a lifestyle, not just documenting what he went through. Man, you had to do this to live, or to do this to survive, blah, 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 blah. This is the way it is in life. It's not just, you're not telling their story, you're glorifying it. You're saying all these things. And I'm pretty sure so many people watching this thing, if you're a fan of music, or even movies, you know what I'm talking about, right? You might not be, because look, I've listened to songs. I gotta say, there were songs where, or even movies that you listen to, you watch sometimes, and it put ideas in your mind. Of course, you're a law-abiding citizen, and you're all these things, and you're cool, and you're looking at it. But you start to appreciate art form. You start appreciating the thing you're taking in, right? And then, hey, some people, they're going to do something. They're playing that song because there's a certain energy behind it. I guess I could say a spirit behind the song itself. So I'm just trying to just point out maybe some anecdotal stories of what people do. A guy came on yesterday too, and was talking about when this song came out. I think was it? I can't remember the artist, about snatching chains. He's like, people just snatching chains, like, because of the song. When we listen to motivational speeches or videos, it does something to you. I'm pretty sure, right? It does. Am I correct or no? Am I? I know I'm right. You listen to a motivational song video, and you're motivated in that moment for maybe a few minutes. You want to go and crush the world and conquer the world and do all these things. But the person is only sharing words. That's it. It's words. The guy never came up and took you off your seat and put you outside and say, get to work or go do this or do that. They never did that. But it did something inside you. Just words. Someone says something to you negatively, you're in a relationship with someone, they said something to you negatively, and that, if it's something negative, you might feel away, you might feel bad about yourself. They said something beautiful and positive, you feel uplifted, you feel amazing. The power of words. But yet still people deny the fact that music has an impact on people. So when you write about violence and all these different things, it has an impact, especially on people with minds that have not yet been developed, like kids, for instance. And in Jamaica, and it might be even in other countries as well, it's the youth, the teenagers who are engaging in some of the craziest activities you can think about, right? Because they're not there yet, but they listen to these things and they tend to act it out. My question is, should people who are creative, should there be a level of responsibility, right? Someone might say, well, I'm trying to eat, and I think that's a problem, because a lot of people might be starving initially, right? And that's the way out. You have a talent, you have a gift, and you're like, man, this is the way that I can get to this place, and I'm just going to do it. And the problem with that is the way the industry is that people feel like you have to write these songs, you have to produce these things, or this sell, that sell. You're making movies, you got to make a movie about this, you got to write a song about this, you got to do a video about this, because this sell, that sell, this sell. Let me write about this because da 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 da. So just going with the flow, you're going with the trend because this is what works. I would posit that it depends. Look, people will. Okay, if we're talking about established media, people will consume whatever it is that you give them. So if you are going to produce movies that are more positive in nature, people will eventually start consuming that. Why? Because that's what they have to choose from. That's a selection, right? So I do not believe that people will only watch movies about violence or sex or whatever else you want to talk, whatever you want to say. Like, okay, if I do, it doesn't matter if there's any substance, show this, people watch it. Show that, people watch it. Write about this, people listen to it. I really don't believe that to be true. I think that just like, I grew up in Jamaica, for instance, and I'm talking about the reason I say Jamaica, that's my experience. So I'm just using that. I like Jamaican food. Why? My palate, the palate, right? It was influenced by Jamaican cuisine. So I like Jamaican food. I like other foods, of course, but I grew up on that, right? So I like that. Another country, India, Pakistan, wherever you're from, Japan, your palate is different because you grew up on a different cuisine. And I think it's the same thing when it comes on to forms of media. If you give people all this, whatever it is, they will get used to it after a certain period of time. And then other people who are trying to come up with a seat and say, oh, let me do the same thing because that's what people want. That's not the case. That's not the case. And even when people are writing songs, like, if I should tell you guys my influence with music, the songs initially when I started writing songs and stuff, it was because I listened to these guys and I liked the way they sounded. And so when I started to write songs, it was along those lines. And some of the songs I've written, and sometimes I remember this one moment. It was in Jamaica, and heard someone playing one of those songs, and I felt so bad because I'm like, man, like, why did I do that? And when I'm writing, I'm thinking about the most creative way to express. If I'm writing about, guns or, just the normal stuff, just violence or whatever. And that's why I can talk about this, because I was there. I listened and stuff, and I saw stuff and experienced stuff or whatever. And you're writing all these things, and you're thinking about the most, how can I write this to express this thing in the most horrible way possible? The most visual way possible, that people see that, yeah, this is some crazy lyrics. And I would, think about it, and I would write it down. So you're in the process of creating something that's gonna damage the minds of people. Yeah. You're just thinking about being creative. You're not thinking about what's gonna happen when this thing like go out or whatever, and you're writing stuff, you're creating, because you're like, man, yeah. And I think there's a disconnect between the creation process and the impact of what you're producing in the world. You write that song, and someone listens to it, and someone goes out and robs some people on the street, or someone goes out and kills someone, and your song was the fuel, that kept them, gave them that high while they're driving in the car with the other four dudes in the back. Your song is beating, and the energy, the spirit of that song is going down, and these dudes are driving down to go do whatever they're gonna do. Someone dies. Are you responsible? Also responsible as a creator of that song, the one that wrote that song, that made that song? Are you responsible? If the person came to you and said to you, bro, yo, that song, man, that song that you did, dude, yo, this dude, yo, this guy, never liked this guy, man, and I was listening to that song, bro, and I'm just like, yo, I just got so pissed off, and I rolled up on him. How will you feel? I'm asking this question because that's what, like, that happens. You get what I'm saying? It happens. It happens all the time. Someone produces a song and someone listens to it and someone gets hurt or die. I'm not saying it happens. I'm not giving a percentage, but it does happen. Even if it only happened 10 out of 100 times, or even 1 out of 100 times, that's a life. And one life is important, because that one person can be the spark that sets ablaze the forest, or just sets ablaze whatever to change the world. So I wonder, I want to ask that question for people who actually, produce songs, and they're saying, man, I'm just expressing. I think there's a difference between expressing something, showing something, and glorifying something. I'm pretty sure everyone understands that very well. You don't have to talk about all the guns that have been created in the world, to be lyrical. You can write about anything else. If you're a true artist, if you're a true lyricist, you can write about a cup and a fork, and you make it sound good. All right. If you're a true storyteller, you can create anything and make it interesting. If we're gonna hold people, who create stuff about the image of Black people and the things that we have to face because they perpetuate all these negative stereotypes across the world, we ourselves also have to be held responsible, because life imitates art. It's a fact of life. There's a level of responsibility that we ourselves also should hold. And one of my biggest problem with the media overall is the media is so powerful. It's so powerful. And I've experienced it myself. I've read books that have changed my paradigm, shifted my paradigm. I've watched movies that have inspired me to do and write things. I've listened to someone sharing their story, or a motivational speaker, or someone that literally gave me a boost, a shot of adrenaline, or something that improved my well-being, the way I am. It improved me. It developed me personally. Media is extremely powerful. It is extremely powerful. And my question is, how is it being utilized? it's the Bible talks about the fact that there's life and death in the power of your tongue, right? So just the same thing, if I can break it down a little bit, you can say something ill to someone to hurt them, or something great to a person to build them up and lift up their spirit. It's the same thing when you click on a video, you choose a movie to watch, you select a TV show, you choose a song to listen to. The person that produces that song or that movie or whatever it is you're about to consume, that wrote the book, they had a choice to make in the creation process. What is it that this piece of art, media, what will this thing do? What's the energy I'm sending out into the world? What's the spirit behind my production, my creation? Because we can choose to build up, or we can choose to break down, and then we can try to produce a million and 10 excuses to rationalize or justify, rather, why we're doing what we're doing. And I think there's a disconnect between, the creation process and the impact of what it is that you're doing. And I think because of that disconnect, that's the reason why people don't feel the great sense of responsibility that they should feel when they create something. It's not as simple as, this is what I'm creating to express myself. Art takes on a life of its own. It gets into people. It gets into the mind. It does something. So my challenge to everyone that sits in a chair in whatever way, shape, or form is this, right? Think about what you're producing. Think about what you're creating. Think about the impact of the piece. Because once it goes out, it will take on, it has life. It will get into the minds of people. When they see your video, how do they feel? Because you can choose to create something positive, or you can choose to create something negative. I don't know, man. And that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about media, because I understand the power of it. And you guys see me, I put videos out, talking about God. And one of the reasons why I do that is because I understand, like, what a video can do to me as an individual. You might just be stumbling across the internet and you see a 2-minute video. You click on it, just some random dude halfway across the world, or a woman from wherever she's from. It's a random video. YouTube recommended it. You just clicked on something, whatever. And that video just impacted you so profoundly. You're like, man, wow. Or you heard something on a podcast, or you're listening to an audiobook, or reading something, whatever, you saw a movie. That's the power of media. Should there be no responsibility? And I'm a supporter of freedom of speech. I was in another room where someone was talking about this person works with Facebook, and he was talking about the fact that there is, the Constitution protects freedom of speech, but it does not protect freedom of reach, right? So, hey, freedom of speech, not freedom of reach, right? I have a problem with social media overall silencing people. I'm not a fan of that at all, right? So I understand that freedom of speech is very, very important. So I'm not calling for people to be muzzled. So I'm talking directly to those who, produce and create and do stuff, to ask a question. We see all these challenges on social media, dumb challenges, of course, where people do very harmful things for views, because, hey, it's gonna get views. Let me do something crazy. And then other people start doing it. So I'm talking to, the people that create stuff, that produces songs and, write songs and make movies and videos and write stuff. It's serious. Yeah. So if I reach one person with that, let me get someone on and hear what the person has to say. They're just so much. My thoughts are just all over the place. um, but yeah, if you're creating something, think about the impact of what you're doing. Think about the potential impact of, and the thing with YouTube, if I use YouTube for an example, as an example, um, people tend to, and I'm not, look, this is not my thing. Like, it's not something that I do, because I'm like, if I wanted to do that, I'm like, I could do it, but I'm just not a person that, I don't thrive on negativity. I'm like, I can't. I'm just like, man, I can't deal with it. On YouTube, people gravitate towards negative, but I believe that is because they have the option. People, that's what news is. Negative stuff, negative. You're, because they know that people are going to be reactive and click on it or whatever the case is. Yeah. People can choose to go in that direction, but I refuse to go in that direction. If I produce a video that has something to do with just a negative subject matter because it's someone's experience, I'm like, okay, that's it. Well, you put it there. But to actually be like, okay, let me just find these type of things or produce these type of things because it's people like this crazy stuff. I think we also as individuals need to try to control our consumption pattern. Not be clicking on all these, just all this negative stuff, man. You got to catch yourself like, whoa, why am I clicking on this thing? Why am I going to listen to this thing? Why am I going to watch this? Why am I going to do that? Am I feeding this negative producing machinery? But I'm talking more so to the creators, man. Think about the impact. No, really think about the impact. And it's such a serious responsibility, right? Even if you produce a video, let's just say on YouTube, you guys are watching on YouTube and Facebook, and you get only 5 views. 5 views. 5. That's 5 people. I understand it's not a lot. You think about it, it's like, oh, it's 5 views. You don't want 5 views. You want 5 million, 500, 5,000, whatever. But those 5 views are 5 people. Yeah. And your video or your whatever it is you do, your piece of media, can impact that person for better or for worse. So I just wanna say that. I wanna say that. And there's so many ways, like as I said, on Clubhouse, I wish they had like a record feature where some of these things could record it, because I could share that with you guys here. It would be a lot better. But I might even talk about this some more. I'm gonna bring this person on, and maybe then we can talk about a few other points. Hey, what's up, my friend?
Hey, what's up, bro? Good to see you, man. I just had to get on this one because this is something that's a big impact on my life, man. Uh, so a quote that stuck with me since I was a kid. I remember watching Spider-Man, and it said, "With great power comes great responsibility." And I
Yeah.
believe that to be true because with the media, we gain more power. Even if it's 5 to 10 people, you share it, it gets out there into the world. And so to answer your question, should we take responsibility? Yes. I mean, absolutely. But the thing is that, like you said before, people want a way out. And just like that same notion can be applied anywhere in life. You want a way out. Okay, you want to make more money, you're living in the hood, whatever the case may be. You can go out and sell drugs. You can go out and steal from a store. You can go out and do all these negative things to get what you want. And the same thing comes when you produce content. So it's like, I mean, by all means, if you really to believe that your success and your gain is worth the impact, the negative impact that it will have on the lives of people, then then that just goes to show the type of person you are. But majority of the time, Runzo, it's not the fact that people want to produce negative to make people go out and do these negative things. It's just people don't think that far ahead. People are just so caught in the moment. When I was younger, I used to listen to a lot of rap music before I got saved and all that, and I would never think about the lyrics. It would just come naturally to me. So whenever I write, it was hard for me to write a positive song because it's easy to write curse words. The N word is so easy to put into lyrics because it just comes so natural. So So I realized that, the more I kept doing it, the more I kept writing music, the more I wanted to put it out there. I'm not thinking about how negative it's affecting somebody at all. And until I get older, and until I start to realize in my own personal life, the mistakes that I've made, a lot of my actions were a result of the media. For example, um, when I was younger, I remember just listening to 50 Cent, 50 Cent, Usher, and I remember just wanting to get a girlfriend in class. And I remember I was in the third grade, and they were just talking about like this certain way to get a girl, right? So I followed the protocol in the video, like, you got to be a player, you got to be a pimp, you got to be like A, B, and C. So I'll dress up like my favorite rappers. I'll put my hat backwards with a do rag on. I would talk like 50 Cent. I would talk like all the rappers, like every rapper. I'll talk like them and act like them. And I realized that what I was doing, I was hurting the people around me because, for one, it was very degrading, and I didn't know. I was a little kid at the time, so um, I lost many relationships because of it. The music that you listen to, what you absorb, it comes into you. So Ronzo, with your video that you had posted a while back, a guy in Singapore who owned the prefecture and that business over there, that video had the most profound effect on me, and it changed the trajectory of my own life. And and I realized at that point how powerful media is and how powerful the influence is, what you absorb. Because the fact that he went out, he started his own business in Singapore as a black guy. He doesn't present himself as in his color. He presents himself as who he is. And I was like, oh my God, like I never thought about that. So for the rest, ever since I saw that video, I've been going about my life just presenting who I am and not carrying my color around. And so I seen positive effects on my own personal life. And it's very true. It's so very true, man. So many experiences, and it's very true. It's a spirit in the music we listen to. It's a spirit in everything we absorb. So behind that music, behind the lyrics, although the beat sounds good, subconsciously we're absorbing that information. And with that
Yes.
information, it sits in our head. And what happens is that we don't even realize it. We're being influenced. It's almost like a drug in a way. Or alcohol. You're getting influenced by the music. You put on Drake, you start to get, hyped up in a certain mood. You put on, for example, I'm listening to Coyote Kobayashi, the jazz music. It makes me want to, relax and draw and do my thing. So it is powerful because it changes your mood. It's like your spirit. It's so weird. It's like this this spirit that you catch on to. You shift based on what you're absorbing and what you're listening to. And that's the
Mhm.
reason why it's so catchy today. I want to ask you, do you think that it was purposely, like with the music today and everything going on, do you think that it was planned for a lot of our culture to produce a lot of negative? Because it seems like there's a lot of African Americans around, a lot of Black people, I'll say, all over the world who produce content, and it's amazing content. But it seemed like the only thing that gets popular, or the only thing that gets mainstream media or attention, is mainly in the negative music. I mean, honestly, I'm just gonna just be honest, man. I don't really see too many. You don't hear too many positive songs today. You know.
Yeah. Well, I guess if we're talking about industries where they have gatekeepers, right? I think those people have an agenda, right?
Mhm.
So and it's easy actually, because when you're in a position of influence, like in those places, you can decide what gets out, right? And I think, as I said before, like we've heard songs. If we're talking about music, and again, I'm talking about everyone, not just the black community. I'm talking about just media, like
Right, right,
for every country, every race, whatever. Um, you have people who decide, all right? And like you decide, okay, I want this thing to actually go out and be popular, whatever the case is, because we've heard underground people, we've seen things from people who are not popular that are amazing, and you ask the question like, yo, how in the world is this thing not there? But the thing is, it's
right,
just the way people in those industries are gatekeepers, and they decide, right? They decide who gets in, the type of image they want to send forth, because you can control that. You get what I'm saying? I think if everyone had the opportunity to see everything, but there's just too much to see, right? And that's one of the reasons why YouTube and other places use algorithms, because there's just too much, right? So we
Right.
don't have time to go through every piece of creation that exists in the world. So people have to decide, okay, you know what? Because as I said before, people might say sex sells, and they might say, listen, man, this is good, the beat or whatever the case is, and they're saying
Right.
that's just the way it is. But I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second, not even for a second. If you do something masterfully and beautifully, people will take it. And if we're talking about shelf life, what are the songs that you still remember that you heard 10, 20 years ago, right? These aren't
Yeah.
the songs that these people are saying sell. You get what I'm saying? Or the
Right.
movies that
Right.
you might see that have a certain agenda. Most of these things you don't even remember them. But the
No.
things that have longevity, promotes life, right? They give life. They lift up people, right? Because there's no one that can fight against those things.
Oh
You
no.
can't really fight against that, right? So when you hear that, that's why Bob Marley, if you're a fan or not, and you can say whatever you want, it's like, why do people listen to those songs now?
Right.
Still. And
Right.
people don't think about that, right? I know people personally,
Mm-hmm.
in Jamaica, very famous people, who have the position that, listen, man, this is my truth, my life, or whatever the case is, and this is just what I'm gonna do, and they just do it. And I'm just like, I get it. You need to make money. This thing has changed your life. I get it. You're wealthy now. Cool. But still, like, you got to think about what this is doing to those people who are behind you. And then they saw that this thing got you to where you are, and they live in the ghetto as well. And they might feel like, this is the only way for me to get to where this person is, because I'm struggling. I'm starving, actually. I need some food. This is the way forward. I'm going to do it. Right. So I think it's a very complex thing, I think, because it's highly individual, right? It depends on the person. So it depends on what you want to do as an individual. You might say, well, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice um whatever, because I don't care what this is going to do to the high schooler or whoever, because, man, I need a break. And it seems like this is the only way for me to get a break. And though I feel like, this is a style that I want to do, this is what I want to produce, it's not getting any traction. So I'm just gonna just go with the flow. And I'm not a person like that. Like, everything that I do, I go against the grain. It's and I realize, I guess I've sort of like set a trend where, people are like looking to me for inspiration and looking to me for stuff, and at least I think, for the most part, I hope I'm setting a good example, and I think I have been doing so. So I think people need to recognize where they are and what they're doing, and really take responsibility for those things, man, because it's so deep, bro. It's actually a heavy burden. But there's someone else on the line too. I'm gonna take on Ty and see what Ty has to say. But if you
Okay.
have any, like, final thoughts, just let me
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. I just think that it just all boils down to just people don't know. They don't know what other path is out there. Because if all you see is so much negative content, if the only negative content is what's mainstream in the media, then people are gonna think like, okay, that's all I can do. That's all I
Yeah.
can produce. Like, there's so many ways of success. There's so many opportunities, but people just don't see it that way. And I just think there needs to be more positive to counteract that negative, so that way we can just have at least more options. I feel like people are optionless in our world. So yeah, man, yeah, you should just definitely bring Ty on, and I definitely want to hear what he got to say though.
All right. All right. So I'm gonna take you
Yeah,
down. I want it one person at a time, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, no worries, man. But all right,
all right.
bro.
So take care, D'Anthony. All
Peace,
right.
man.
Bye for now, bro. There's something that I thought I have is this, right? Ask yourself the question: why do you do what you do? Why do you create the way you create? Right? Ask yourself these questions: why do you do what you do? Why do you create the way that you create? Right? Someone might say, man, I just like this type of thing. Why do you like that type of thing? Ask yourself the question. Try to go back as far back as you can remember. Go all the way back and ask yourself that question: what influenced you? Usually music, the artists that you listen to growing up, and you just got into that lane, and he started building on that foundation, right? So let me just bring Ty on. Um,
Hey,
what's
how
up?
you
What's up?
doing?
I'm good. Talk to me.
So I don't necessarily agree that artists should be responsible, at least at a certain level. Like when you're saying violence, if somebody's around violence or they just grew up around violence, and most artists just talk about what they've been through, I would think that they would just talk about violence. And I don't think they're necessarily thinking on a bigger picture that it's going to be reaching more people than what it is. So at that level, I don't think artists should be responsible. But let's say that artists gains a lot of success off of that. And then they're no longer in a position where they have to live that experience. Then I think they should take responsibility for what they say if they continue to talk about that lifestyle. And then I also put that I produce music. So I didn't grow up around violence. Like I was in a safer environment. I would have a problem if somebody came to me with that message and saying, hey, can you produce for me? I wouldn't be comfortable with it because then I would feel responsible for adding on to that message. Because I don't obviously agree with that violence message, but I don't really think on that beginner level that artists should be responsible for their messages, even if it's, let's say, drugs or sex or anything like that. But once they get up
Okay,
to a
so
certain level, I think
mhm.
they should take responsibility.
Okay, so why would you not be comfortable with producing for someone who is coming to you with that message?
Because I don't agree with it. Like I didn't grow up around, let's say, like violence, gun violence. I didn't grow up around gun violence. I didn't grow up
No,
around
but you said
gang
but you said the
lifestyle.
but you said the person initially you said that the person grew up around this is what they know. So someone is coming
Yeah,
to you with their truth, right? So to him, this is listen, man, this is my life, my truth, but you don't
yeah.
necessarily agree with that, right? So he's
No,
coming
I
to you with
wouldn't
his
do
truth.
it.
So
Yeah,
you wouldn't
exactly.
produce it.
No, but I don't have a problem with him talking about it. I just have a problem with me promoting it or saying, you know what, that's okay.
But the thing
Because
is, most of the
I don't think that I should be limiting his experiences in his life and whatever he feels. But I just don't want to add on to that because I know the bigger picture or I see the bigger picture.
okay, so what okay, the thing is most of the artists, right, that we talk about are famous people,
Right.
right? So like for instance, where I'm from, there are so many people that are trying to get famous, right? To get the
Mm-hmm.
big break, right? So you're trying to
Right.
get there. So most people don't know these people, but I'm talking about what you hear, on the internet, Spotify, whatever, iTunes, the radio station. The radio is almost dead, but still radio.
Mm-hmm.
So you hear these songs, right? So we're talking about those people primarily, right? And they're no longer. Some of them are no longer broke, right? But they
Yeah.
still do it. They still do it, and I think, as you said, some people don't see the bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
and that I think it's a disconnect. Some people see it, but they don't care. You get what I'm saying? Because it's
Yeah.
like, what's more important, dude? I'm getting like this check. You're getting that check, all
And
right?
I
And
know
you don't want
that's
to.
really enticing for them
Yeah,
because it's
you don't
like
want to mess with the flow, bro. You don't want to mess
because
with
if
that
you go
flow.
any other route, let's say with a positive route, most people
Yeah.
don't roll with that. Let's say like with
Why is that?
cancer.
Why is that? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It's
And
just
why do you think
something
that
within us
came
where we
from?
just gravitate towards negativity. Like that's why I think the news is so successful because they just run a whole bunch of negative stuff. It's just crimes, fires happening, this and that, and people just gravitate towards that. Like if news is just running positive stuff all day, people get bored of that. And I don't know what it
Wow.
is within us that that's a fact though.
It's funny that you said that because on this channel, for example, when I release a video about a black person doing something successful,
Right.
those videos tend to get less views.
And that's
Those
surprising.
videos tend to get less views versus
Mm,
maybe something someone may have a more controversial experience or something, and those views, someone doing something, like, oh, something great, people ain't clicking on that. So over time,
yeah.
sometimes people start watching them, but like historically, like when I'm looking at all the data,
Hmm.
they don't get as much views from people, like, and I'm just like, man, because I'm the one that interviewed the person. I'm like, this is an amazing story.
Yeah.
Y'all should
And I
see
love
it.
those stories. I love watching those successful stories. It's like inspired me and like changed my life plans, honestly. Like your channel's had a big impact on me, and I thank you for like that. So I think
You see
the
that?
successful
You see
ones are
that?
great.
You see that you just did just
Yeah.
there. You just said that the channel has had an impact on you,
Great
right?
impact. Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's the responsibility of every person that creates something, because
Yeah.
that can happen. You get what
Right.
I'm saying? Just like what you're experiencing, that can happen. And so many
Mhm.
other people have that. And that's the way I look at it. And I think, but you know what? There's just so much money on so many levels. There's this thing is so deep that we can't
It is very
tackle
deep.
this at on a surface level. It's not gonna work.
And that is not
Um,
gonna yeah, it's not gonna work.
but I guess for those who understand, I would say, man, please do your part. Please.
Yeah.
But Ty, thanks for coming on, man.
No
Maybe
problem.
shout out
Thank
to
you.
your music thing. I don't know what you do. Like, tell people where to find
I
you.
mean I have a SoundCloud, but I haven't put anything up there. But yes, it's just Thailand, like Tyland on
All
SoundCloud.
right. All right, Thailand. Take care, man. Thanks for coming on.
All right.
TK, what up?
Hey, Ranzo, how are you doing? Wow, I can't believe
I'm
I'm
good.
on. My daughter was just in here. We watch your channel all the time because
All
we
right, all right.
want to come to Japan at some point. I also want to tell you, thank you for showing your wife and your daughter sometimes. Like that really does mean a lot.
Mhm.
It means a lot to see Black love. It means a lot to see you guys overseas and in that space and doing well and excelling. So that also means a lot, that representation,
Mhm.
that imagery. This goes right into our conversation about what you're talking about, like being in media, like being
Yeah.
represented and seeing these images, hearing these words, like these are impacting people's lives all over the world. And I think that what you're talking about, I know that you're Christian, is that, like, to me, on a larger scale, this is about like society at this point, and a lot of society is turned over to a reprobate mind. And
Mm.
like when I talk to, like, I look at a lot of comments online. Like I dive straight into comments just to see how people are thinking, like what are different people's experiences, and I get the feeling like behind people's comments and things, and especially like the young generation, especially I'll also help sometimes people learn English. And I've come across some Japanese students, like I can feel, sorrow, especially
Mm.
in the younger generation. It's a deep despair. People aren't feeling heard on a like personal level. And I think, that goes into especially music. I remember, like, I grew up in the 90s and 80s. So I remember when, all the gangster rap came out, it was so controversial. And when you're Jamaican descent, like when Jamaican music started playing and you see people, winding and stuff like that, that was super controversial to see those images, to hear that beat, to see people moving in those ways. Like I came from a Christian household, like, my mom was like, you don't turn that crap off. Like, and a lot of people aren't getting that, programming now from their family. Like that came from my mother from a Christian background, because we knew that, like Lucifer, we were taught that he was the angel, like the highest angel. He was the most beautiful angel, the most seductive angel. He seduced people through his pride and his beauty, and also his language, like everything. He was over music. And
Mm.
like we were taught, and from my grandfather, that's where my mother got that from. My grandfather told her, you are not to listen to certain types of music, except for Christian music in this household. And dancing was not allowed. Like dancing is another art form. And these things
Mm.
like give off an energy. These give off a lustful energy. And we know that lust is insatiable. So,
Mm.
like all these industries, they already know this. Like all this stuff was used in slavery. This was used in programming. They have taken a lot of our things. We did not originally use this in a seductive way, but it has been repackaged and certain pieces cherry picked out because we know how it impacts people in their spirit. One of my friends, he was saying that his son is like 3 or 4, was like, "Daddy, stop listening to this rap music. Like every time I listen to it, it makes me feel funny." Like a child can tell, like a certain type of beat, it hits you a certain type of way. Like when I listen to classical music, it makes me feel more alert. It makes me feel calm. When I just listen to instrumentals, like I also played instruments. When I listen to instrumentals, I feel creative. I'm in a creative space. When I hear a certain type of beat, it automatically makes me want to wind my body. Like now we're traveling down into a lustful thing, in which that could be good in certain situations if you're responsible about it, if you're aware about it. But these things, they create a knee-jerk reaction. And the industry knows how to capitalize on that. And they have gatekeepers to keep these things, happening, so that it's a systemic issue. This is more systemic racism and things like that. My family is very creative. We're artists, like all different types of artists. So we're very aware of this space. We're aware of how it's very hard to break into this space in certain areas, how you are blocked. And it's just not seen as you're trying to do something positive. You're gonna get all types of pushback on that. But like I'm so thankful to be able to see the technology age. I'm actually in IT, and that has made something where Black people can find a back door. And I was just talking in your comments, like Maya, the popular artist Maya. Like, well, she was popular when I was growing up, like in the early 2000s and stuff. And it's like people were like, what happened to Maya? She like fell all the way off. Like she was out, before Beyonce. And she had a lot of backlash in the industry, and she went independent. She's still making music to this day. She still has a lot of videos, a lot of albums. She's been dropping albums nonstop, but people do not hear about her because she went independent. But she does a lot of stuff on YouTube. You can check out her videos, and she talks about, like, she's not suffering financially because she has made a like new blueprint on how to be financially stable in an independent space. I believe Amel LaRue did the same thing. I'm not sure how she's doing financially now. I want to check back up on her. I love her music, but I think that now we're getting the opportunity. People are becoming more aware, more conscious, and we're going to be able to create our own spaces like you did in YouTube. And it's not going to be controlled by mainstream anymore. So I think in the future, it's going to be better. And people are becoming more aware. They're becoming more spiritual and things like that. So, I'm hoping for the best, but there's definitely a reason why this type of negative stuff has been pushed so hard out there. And it stacks up against us. I feel like it's just another part of systematic racism.
Indeed. What do you think about people who are trying to are doing positive things, right? And they're not getting I guess the traction that they need or they want. What do you have any advice for those people?
Well, if like I look at it like this, I'll use Maya as an example again. She's not getting popularity, but the thing that she is getting, her pockets aren't affected. She's still going to be able to create generational wealth and open doors for other people who want to, like, she's like a sharing person. If somebody went to her, I'm sure that she would not turn them down on how to get into that. And if somebody pitched her a business idea on how to do it in a positive route, like she would go for that. I feel like anyways, as Black people, we're very open, to that sort of thing, sharing and uplifting one another. But as far as popularity, if we look at most people's lives, popularity hasn't really helped people too much. If you look at people's personal lives, The people that are the most popular, say for example, the Kardashians or something, these people are absolutely miserable. Um, they're spiritually broke, you know?
Mm.
Like you can have all the beauty in the world. You can have all the money in the world. Most of these people commit suicide, so I think that we have to stop equating popularity with success. Having the wealth and the knowledge and not even, just money. Being rich and being wealthy are two different things. Like a lot of
Mm.
basketball players, a lot of football players, like these people were popular and wealthy. After a few years, if they didn't have that training, if they weren't taught what to do now after you get to here, like what are you
Mm.
going to do mentally when you actually reach your goal? Like a lot of people, that screws with you. Your whole life you've been trying to reach a goal. What happens when you actually get there? What are you
Mm.
going to do now? What are, Kobe Bryant, like he left a good legacy. He was thinking ahead of that. Like, he went to the top of the game, and then it's like my body's going to give out at some point. What am I going to do after that? Like you've been on this grind the whole time, the whole time, the whole time. You get there, what are you going to do? You're going to crumble if you let society dictate to you. If you don't have that internal compass, like that love of God, and to see the blessings at every step of the way, and then
Mm.
to have, I feel like God is going to give you a plan on how now to multiply it amongst His people. I feel like you're still going to be spiritually depleted, regardless of being popular. I don't think that that's the game that a lot of people should really get into.
Mhm. All right, thank you so much, TK. And I would tell people, man, just listen, just do your thing, man. Like, well, that's just what I've been doing, right? It's just like your heart, like I understand that, sometimes you want to get the whatever it is that you think success looks like, but man, it's so much better to be yourself and just do that thing you're drawn to. It. It's positive. Just give your heart, man, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Don't even expect anything in return because that will drive you nuts if you don't get it. So just do it and hopefully pray, and see what
Yeah, and
happens.
I agree with that. And I think that everybody is given a God-given gift. I think that's the
Yes.
main thing. If you tap into your God-given gift, like everybody gets a spiritual gift, at least one, then I think that um, out of that you can get popular if that's the path that you're supposed to be on. And if
Because the
not,
world
you
needs what
still
you
stuck.
have.
Right.
Because the world
And
needs what
only
you
you
have.
can give it. And only you can give it
Mm,
in that certain way that you can do it. Like,
yeah.
and that's why I tell to a lot of the students that I see in despair is that a lot of people just don't really think that they have any purpose of being on this earth. They just showed up
Mm,
and they're just living out days. And that's not true. God gave us all a special gift. And I'm so happy that you're using yours. It really is touching hearts. I'm all the way in the
oh,
DMV area. And
mhm.
send your love to your lovely wife and your daughter.
I will take your TK. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
All right. So we'll jump right to Ishmael from Dad is Not a Noun. Hey, what's up? How
Hey,
you doing?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
I'm good,
I
sir.
love your show. I'm a big fan of yours. I love the topic. I think when it comes to it, I think it's a level of responsibility of the content creator as well as the
Mhm.
consumer. Because as the consumer, you can turn it off. You can turn your
Mm,
phone off. You don't have to buy that song. But at the same time, as a creator, you do have a level of responsibility of what you put out to the masses. But at the same
mhm,
time, you have to live in your truth. And
mhm,
then when you try to change it to make it, let's say PG-13 friendly, then you're not living your truth. So it's kind of like a mixed bag in a way. And then when you were talking about popularity, if you go back to the historical figures in that time when they were alive, they weren't popular. You know, they were like vilified. They were villains in
mhm.
in people's eyes. And so if you come with substance, it shouldn't matter. People are gonna find you. People found you. If you think
Mhm.
about it, like when we were talking about before in the past, you were saying, how I started BGE was just to inspire people, and it caught on. And one person found it, two people found it, three people, and then like a million people found it. So if people want inspiration, they'll find it.
Okay, so question, when you say you were saying speaking the truth, right? Well, we know that a lot of people, if we're talking about music, like a lot of people write songs that they just make stuff up.
Oh yeah,
You know, they just make stuff up. Or they might tell you that they're writing about John's life, all right? And a lot of times it's just a lie.
right.
I've seen it. Um, but you know, as I said to Ty, it's like it's so deep. You know, we can't really tackle this on a surface at a surface level, but I'm just trying to reach those people who understand it too, you know, like to be like, look, if you're in a position and you understand it, you know, just try to just lead the charge, you know, with positivity. Um, because it does good, man. It does good. You know, like you have a podcast. You know, I was on a
Yeah.
podcast. That's out of now, right? So that's how you know we conversed, and it's just it's it can be powerful, man. It's I understand it so well. You know, like I understand the power of media so well, and that's why I'm in what I'm in.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And it's like because I understand even a quote. If you look around my, you know, my workstation right now, I got like a million post-it notes all over the place, like everywhere,
Right.
because I understand just a quote, what that can do to you as an individual at the right moment, the right time, a word from a person at the right time, you know. And I think there's a disconnect. And you know, your podcast, that is not a noun. It's like as a father, I think it starts from even the home,
Yes,
because if
I
you
totally
don't
agree.
instill in your child that, listen, man, what you do matters.
Yes.
The words, you know, especially if you see your child with an exceptional gift, right? You got to say to them, listen, man, you got to teach them how to use it and how to be responsible with that. You get what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
not because someone would take something from you mean that you should give it to them. You know,
Right.
let's say someone trusts you. Are you going to abuse the trust that the person placed in you as an individual? Right? They're
Yep.
dependent on you for example, to cook them food, right? Are you going to poison the person? You know that they're dependent on you to eat their
Right.
dinner, and you're at the stove, you're mixing ingredients. They gave you complete trust
Right.
that mom or dad or whoever is going to give me this thing, and I'm going to eat it, and I will receive the nutrients, and I'm going to be ready to go, energized to do what I need to do. With that trust, what are you going to do with it? I
Definitely.
understand that not everyone understands this,
Right.
right? And I grew up, look, Jamaica, third world country, as they say, so-called third world, in the inner city community in a third world country, right? One of the most notorious communities in the entire country. So, like, I understand when you grew up around that, not being engaged in it, but it was very close. It was like literally in the same room that I was in.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, so you understand that how
No, I definitely
if
get
you
what you're
if
coming
you
from.
grew yeah if you grew
Yeah,
up like that, you can write about it, but glorification is different than documentation.
I totally agree. And it, like you said, it starts at the home, and it starts with the parents letting the kids know, you know what, at the end of the day, it's entertainment. We do that when it comes to movies. We tell people, you know what, it's not real. What you see on the
No, we
movie
can't. Bro, I don't know. I can't. Okay, continue.
oh,
But
oh,
but
but
I know
you
I
hear,
agree with the entertainment part.
but
I
you hear
I
what I'm
get
saying.
it.
But again, it starts
But
from the home. You have to
mm,
elaborate, explain to your kids that, hey, just to let you know, this is entertainment. This is for you to be entertained. But if you
mhm.
don't break that down, some people think that's the reality. And then artists, again, it's about the money. That sells. Unfortunately, that's the world that we live in. We live in a world where it's all about clickbaits, um, half truths. But that's the reality. But again, it goes back to just taking personal responsibility at the end of the day. Like as a creator, as a content creator, as a writer, you know, you know your own truth. And at the end of the day, whatever you put out to the world, you have to look yourself in the mirror and you deal with the consequences of it. And that's how you got to look at it. And I think that's the most important thing. But again, it goes back to it starts at the home. You have to let your child know. that, this is entertainment. This is not real. And it has to, and again, it has to start from home. Because if it doesn't, again, you have a lot of kids, black, white, Latinos, if they don't have that influence at home, they're going to find it not in the home.
Yeah.
And sometimes what happens is you have parents that work 2, 3, 4 jobs, and TV becomes the babysitter of the child. And that's the reality. So that kind of tells us the system that we're living in is not working. When you have a mother and a father that has to work 2 jobs to pay the mortgage, we have a problem.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's a bigger issue, and it's a bigger issue at the end of the day, and this is just one of the key issues, I think.
All right, Ishmael, thanks for coming on, man.
No problem,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you, brother.
All right, take care.
All right, man.
Trey, what's up? Talk to me.
Lonzo, what's up, man?
I'm here. What's up?
We finally get to meet.
Okay, I'm not sure, but wait, I think I might recognize her name. I think.
Yeah, Trey Monroe.
Okay, I've seen her name before. What's up? Talk to me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I really wanted to hop on the mic with you, man. Because I am in fact an artist myself. I'm a poet, and I just want to say that the words you put out into the universe, they're very powerful, and you do have to be careful, not only as a creator but as a writer. And I think that careful writing comes from the fact that when you're very meticulous in what you write and the kind of message that you want to put out there into the world. And so it's very careful that you utilize the words that are giving yourself truth as an artist. And I think that even coming from, a poet, I think that's true. A lot of poets tend to, say things that just sound cool, or it just sounds kind of like it just sounds beautiful. So they just say it. And just kind of like, they kind of get out there. Before I get onto the topic about hip hop and rap, but like there was one poet I came across today. He said something about death, and he was saying how he wants to know what it feels like for the soul to be snatched from the body. And I'm like, bro, like I don't want to know what that feels like. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to live a thorough life. Like that sounds pretty crazy. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I think as an artist, you have to be very careful with the words you choose and the kind of messages that you're putting out there, because everything that you say and do, it has vibration. And I think someone else kind of like, was talking about that. And, anytime you go to, like, let's say if you go into a club, a lot of times they're playing that really aggressive rap. There's that aggression that's behind it. But I'm not saying that to neglect the fact that there are people, Black people to be specific, that come from poor places, that are plagued, with violence, drugs, alcohol. And so I think that with rap, I think it's nothing more than an artist trying to get out their truth. And I think as a listener or as a reader, it's your responsibility to stay true to your heart. And I grew up listening to hip hop. I grew up listening to R&B. I grew up listening to everything. And I was definitely into what you would say gangster rap. I grew up listening to The Game, Biggie Smalls, Tupac. Tupac was, he was definitely, pretty special, because he had a special way of utilizing his message. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're talking about, the tensions of racial America, to be a thug, to come from a poor place, but at the same time to recognize the beauty in that struggle. And all I'm trying to say is that, rap, hip hop is a little bit more generic, because, you talk about hip hop, you talking about breakdancing, you talking about singing, you talking about poetry, De La Soul, that's a very generic thing. But if you're talking about rap, to be specific, rap or gangster rap, to me, that is nothing more than the generation, preferably the new generation, speaking their truth. It is like their form of blues. You know what I'm saying? Every generation of Black people since the Harlem Renaissance had their own form of blues. And as you see in the 90s, I'm still kind of young, but like from the 80s into like the 90s into the 2000s, you started seeing more of the, the kind of aggression in hip hop. And I think that's nothing more than that artist explaining their truth. And Black people have been doing nothing but expressing their emotions. It's nothing more than a cry. It just comes off more aggressive than it did, say, our ancestors from like, years ago when they were playing on those horns, and the piano and everything. It was a little bit different. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I think as a
Yeah.
listener, I think it's okay. And I understand that, it can affect you. Like one young gentleman was saying, like, it kind of affected him, how he kind of like was hollering at girls and talking to girls. I mean, me personally, I never really was affected that way. I did dress like it. I had the do-rags, the fitted caps, the big baggy jeans, but I never wanted to go out here in the streets and rob somebody, kill somebody, or just join a gang because I thought it was cool. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in an urban neighborhood, but I didn't grow up in like the hood. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I remember hearing like gunshots ringing out in the middle of the night. You know what I'm saying? My grandparents being like, yo, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm a little shaking, but I'm okay. But, I could have been anything, but I was the guy that, I was into poetry, books, Japanese anime, video games. I could have been a part of any of that, but that was my choice. I didn't want to be a part of that. So I think as I gotten older, I decided who I wanted to be. And I think it's very important that you decide the kind of artist that you don't want to be, and able for you to decide the artist you want to be. And a lot of times, a lot of artists are just trying to hustle. They're just trying to make that money, because sex does sell, alcohol does sell, violence does sell, but it doesn't mean that it's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't contribute to positivity, but it does sell. And so I think they just try to eat. You know what I mean? But at the same time, as a listener, I think it's your responsibility to stay true to your heart. I don't think that you should allow anything. Yeah, your music is a part of your diet. If you're listening to it every day and you feel like it's affecting you that much, you probably need to like pull back from it. But speaking to the youth, I don't know. I mean, it is a thing of popularity, but some young people, if they grow up around that environment, they need something that they can kind of relate to. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's okay to listen to it as long as you're true to your heart. And I'll give you a prime example. I have a little brother, he's 21. And, it was funny. We just hung out over the weekend, and he got 3,000 plus views on a music video that he put out with him and another guy. And they talking about shooting, standing over a guy, killing him, whatnot. I didn't want to demoralize him.
So,
okay.
Question. Did he, well, clearly we're online. So, but your brother's not a killer, right?
I don't think so. I hope not. I hope not. I don't think so. I don't think. I will say this. Just answer your question. I don't want to put you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I was gonna say this to answer your question real quick. I don't think so. He's not the killer type. I don't know, but I think that he's being something that he truly isn't. That he doesn't have to be. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of goes into that thing of being a leader more so than being a follower. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I want you to finish.
Yeah, it's that's an example, right? Because I'm like, when someone says, like that, what you just said, someone is like, okay, they're speaking their truth, or they're talking about their lived experiences or whatever. I'm like, when someone says, like, because I can sit here, give me like 30 seconds, I can write something and literally describe something, just like when someone is creating a movie, you're writing a script, whatever it is, you it's from your head, your imagination, right? So if a person is saying, yo, I run into the whatever place and like bam bam da da da, he's on the ground, blah 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 blah, and you're just making it up that you killed this person, like, dude, like, looked at me funny, da, da, da. You're saying something and I'm like, that's you're glorifying it. You're not saying it. It's like you're not even documenting it, or you're saying, I'm sharing a story, man. Back in 1985 or whatever, this happened, and you're telling someone about the story. That's not what you're doing. You're literally making it cool that you're running and you're doing this, and then someone else listening to it and say, okay, yeah, maybe I can resolve my conflict this way as well, as an example, right? So I understand sharing your truth, letting people know what you went through, but there's a different way. Did you like that life? What did that life cause around you? How many people that you knew that are now dead, that died, family members, friends, whatever? Is it something that you want to perpetuate? But the thing is, I guess I can only say that people who know better should do better, because not everyone has or are like you who can actually take it in and they're fine. And I like the word you use. You said diet, which is very, very true, because just like we eat something, you are what you eat. You are what you eat. You get what I'm trying to say? So everything that we eat, we become. I go into my kitchen, I eat whatever. I might feel a certain way. Like if I order, like for instance, you got this Domino's now. They have the New York sized pizza in Japan, because pizzas here are usually small. You know, they got the massive pizza,
Right,
dude.
right, yeah.
And you go and you buy that and you eat it, and you might not feel that great afterwards. You get what I'm saying? If you eat too much of it. And it's like you can go and eat a salad and maybe, you know, like some lean beef or whatever. And, you know, you go lift some weights or whatever, you feel better. It's like you are what you eat. Over time, you become that, just the way your body is. And it's the same way. Watching movie, as you said, movies is like a diet. What you're taking in, what you're listening to, is a diet.
Right.
Like, and people don't look at it like that. And there's an impact. Something happens when you do that. And people deny that fact. And I understand that at a conscious level, I can listen to, look, I've listened to songs like, and I'm like, yo, bro, this guy is sick, you know? And you're listening to it, and your conscious mind, you know, you're like, okay, yeah, he's just talking about whether it's real or not. You don't care. You just like the beat. You like the way it's flowing, whatever, and you take it in. And then, so your conscious mind is like, okay, I understand that. I'm not going to go outside and do this, right? But in your subconscious mind, what's happening? When you're sleeping and then that part starts playing back all the things you went through during the day, what's happening, right?
I see what
because
you're saying. Right.
Most of who we are exists at a subconscious level. It's like, you know, like it's there, it's stored within you, right? There's not a lot that's going on in your active memory, right? So like if you look like this book, Thinking Fast and Slow, by Daniel Kahneman, for instance, it talks about like, you know, like fast and slow thinking and the way the mind works, blah 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 blah. But it's like, in your active memory, there's not much you can hold in your mind. If I give you a string of numbers now, like 20 digits long, you might lose me after like 8 digits. You're like, wait, what?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You can't hold much in it, right? So most of the things that we know is like, it's not in our active memory. It's like, it's under the surface. So listen to those music, and even you track your behavior. And I've done this myself, use myself as a guinea pig where, okay, boom, I'm going to read some books. Reading books about personal development, right? Listen to some motivational stuff, like maybe like Eric Thomas is an amazing speaker. Love that guy. You're listening to some ET, you're reading some books, you're in that zone. You are a different person, a different beast than when you decide, yo, I'm going to listen to whichever artist, whichever person that's speaking about negativity or whatever, watching some type of movie. A totally different space you're in. So you can, I'm like, people can run the experiment on themselves. So but the thing is, again, the person who is like your brother, for instance, and some people that I know, some relatives of mine as well, who have some songs that are very creative, amazing beats, and you're like, okay, you can, but when you listen to the lyrics, I'm like, oh man, oh bro, why? You're so talented, you can write about anything. Why this way? Why these lyrics? Right? I know that you haven't done these things. Why are you talking about this? Like, if a man has 100 songs, you're telling me you killed 100 people. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm gonna all your songs like, oh, this is your experience, I'm like, okay, when do you stop then? Okay, you share a story.
Like, and I think that makes sense. I'm pretty coming from, and I think it really is a matter of like, you know, you don't want to stay in the hood. You know what I mean? You rap about these things and you tell your story, but eventually you want to get out. You know what I'm saying? And then once you make it to a level where you're out and you make it to a level where you can kind of make the kind of art that you want to make and still make a living off of it, I think as a responsibility as an artist, that's what you should be doing. And you can take that with a lot of artists from back in the day, you know, Nas, you know, Busta Rhymes, you know, a lot of those cats have grown. They don't really, you know, talk about some of the same things in the way they talk about it, like they used to talk about it, you know, and you kind of rise and you learn from that. And that's part of being an artist. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have just rappers and you have artists, but you can be both, and you have to learn to rise above your demons and, you know, grow as an artist. And your words are very powerful. They're very, very powerful. And I think in terms of diet, I think you also have to take it into moderation. You know, too much of anything is bad for you. You know, I wouldn't say like, oh my God, like, you know, I'm a Christian saved. Like, I don't want to listen to that no more. Like, that's the devil's work. You're making it out to be that way. Just, take it in, listen to it, give it a chance. And what I normally do is I always give an artist 3 times. 3 times. If I like it, I'll listen to it again. If I don't, I'll move on. But I think everyone deserves a chance to tell their story. But going back to my brother, for instance, I think that I did catch some of the lyrics, and some of the things I think were not necessarily true. One of the things that he talked about was his brother, his father. He was saying how his father was in the streets. And I'm like, your father was not in the streets. Like, I know your father, he was spoiled growing up. You know what I'm saying? He was a spoiled brat coming. Your father was in the streets, man. So I think it's very important that you be very, very, meticulous, very careful, and very conscious and mindful of the messages you're putting out there and what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? It's very important that you do that. So I do understand, where you're coming from. And I think, like, as an artist myself, I want to be able to take the youth and inspire them. And if I can inspire 1 person or 2 people, or like you said, if you get 5 views and inspire 5 people, that is phenomenal. And to be able to do that as a teacher and as an artist it's a very challenging thing to do, but it's an effective thing to do. You can come down on their level and be able to speak a message to them to say, hey, you're not just a person of just like authority that I see and just tell me what to do. You can come down on their level and maybe help them be able to express themselves in their kind of way for their craft and for their art form that can help them. And a lot of times some of these young people just need a venue, and maybe rap is that, maybe the studio is that, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes you're just listening to what they're talking about, you know what I mean? But some things ain't always true either, and that is very important as your responsibility, as an artist, but yeah, we do have to be careful about what we listen to. And like one gentleman said, he listens to, I think he said Kobayashi. Sometimes I listen to Yama Hiroto or Iwabe's, you know what I'm saying? I may want to listen to some DJ Kawadi or, some Japanese kind of chill back music. I don't always listen to gangster rap every single day. I actually don't feel like I can do that. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes I want to just sit down and I just want to write and I just want to read, So I think just moderation is really important, but just don't dismiss the fact of our struggle and where we came from, and I understand that, the images that come with that, you know what I mean? That is part of the business, but it's really up to you how you allow that to affect you, because you don't have to allow that to affect you. It's your choice. Moderation is key. That's all I'm saying. So
all right, Trey, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for sharing, bro.
Thank you, Ronzo.
All right, peace out.
Peace out.
All right. So you guys see we have different takes on the issue, right? We have different takes. I'm going to wrap up soon. Someone said truth won't sell. I beg to differ. I think in this present day, it seems, because so many people are artificial, so many people, just try to like go with the flow in terms of like, okay, well, this is what people are doing, let me just do the same thing. I think when you have someone that actually, spill their guts out, more people gravitate toward that, because people recognize that you're being vulnerable, you're being authentic, you're sharing like you're being real, like seriously, right? And people gravitate toward that, right? So I don't buy into this thing where people are saying truth does not sell. And I understand as well that what I'm talking about will not resonate with everyone, right? Someone who is doing like producing some music or creating whatever, just art, whatever form it might come in. Some people might be doing it at a level where at the time they're not thinking about the impact, right? But for those who understand, or understands the power that media holds in whatever shape or form it is, I think, if you understand it, you should be responsible with it, right? Someone that's just coming up might not have had the family structure or the mentors, right, or the experience in whatever shape or form to inform their decision or their choices. So for those people, hopefully there are people in their lives, or they come up, or they reach a place where they meet someone who can actually help them along, just to tell them, like, look, man, consider this, do this, do that. It's And I understand the conflict. Like, if someone is doing something and it's their livelihood, for instance, and you're like, man, yo, if I, do this thing, people won't be receptive toward this thing, right? It's whatever. I'm just like, I don't know, man. I gotta keep doing this thing because, hey, man, this sells. So I know it's not a simple conversation to be had, or to have people have different experiences, right? They're at different places in their lives. But going back to the title, life imitates art, man, and that's a reality. It's a fact of life. It happens, and it's so deep. And I think there's a disconnect as well, to even from who we are as spiritual beings. And the thing is, when we look at something from the wrong vantage point, we won't see the whole picture, and that affects what we perceive, or perception as well. People might feel like this thing, man, is just an expression, but it's not an expression. And even documenting something can be, I think documenting something is better than trying to glorify something negative. But at the same time, the reason why, certain content like movies and stuff have like ratings too, is because they understand certain things are for adults, other things are for kids, because at each stage, right, the content might impact you differently as well. So we also have that too, where it's like, hey, even when you have something that you have documented, if someone sees it that is impressionable, right, a child, it might have an adverse effect on that child, because it might be introducing them to something that they shouldn't be introduced to just yet, and that causes them to go down a certain path. Many people, many people in media have wielded the power of broadcasting in whatever shape or form, whatever media. I'm not just talking about videos. I'm talking about videos. I'm talking about music. I'm talking about the written word in whatever form, books, articles, whatever, art, paintings, you name it. People have wielded many of these things in such a way to lead people in different paths, based on just what their personal agendas, right? So people do understand, as I believe it was it TK, what TK said, that these people understand. And we talk about the media and the image of Black people. We talk about it. Because we recognize the damage. We see it. And it's the same thing. And I think we should all hold ourselves to the same standard. Just everybody should. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, man, every time I think about, well, me, I don't know about anyone else, right? And I'm just sharing my story. So clearly not everyone will be receptive to this message. But for me, when I think about what little influence I have, I try, I'm saying, Ranzo, are you using the influence that you were given as a force for good? Like, what are you using it for? And that's a decision that each person who has whatever influence, even if it's in your classroom, on the playground, wherever you find yourself, your 2 friends, your 100 friends, whatever, we have to make a decision. How are we going to utilize this? Am I going to use this as a force for good or a force for ill? And my position is, whether or not it sells, whether or not it blows up or whatever, man, just use whatever it is you have as a force for good, right? Just do that. Just do that, because everything that you do, and it's crazy to think about, because people, it might seem like it's burdensome, You know, when you're like, man, everything I gotta watch, everything I do, everything I put out, everything I say, man, that's just a lot of work. I can't deal with that. Right? But as much as you possibly can. Because, and a lot of people as well sometimes put out fake things. They put up a facade to make you think something is a certain way. And then people think that's, oh, this is the way that that thing is. And what the person is putting up is fake. So you now think this is a norm, or you think, oh, this is the way things are, because they want you to get a certain perception, and now you're imitating that when that's not even the reality. And now something that was false, and let me just add artistic to it, you know, have given it life when it wasn't even in the real world in the first place, but because someone, for whatever reason, wants you to believe something to be so. You're like, oh, that's reality. They introduce a concept, introduce something, and you're like, oh, okay, that's reality. And then you now start taking that on, and now you actually gave birth to that thing. So now art or life is now imitating art. It's deep. It's a lot. It's just what I think. And I always wanna, and that's why, you know, when I I do certain videos and things, I think about these things, and those videos might not get as many views as other videos, but still, man, people, it's funny because the engagement level of those videos, like any videos that I've done, like for instance, maybe videos where I was speaking about just positivity and just PD, personal development, or even my spirit, my faith. Those videos get so much more engagement in terms of like people reaching out and talking about the impact that those videos have had on their lives. Right? It's like when you put stuff out into the world that might not get the views or the whatever else, the whatever metric, it doesn't do great at all, they still touch people, the 100 people that see it. So I guess it really goes back to what you value in life, right? And I think it's highly individual. And I think that's the issue, right? It's highly individual. So I guess we can't, it's possible, still it's possible, because I like questioning the impossible, right? And the things that people think are uncool because they're good or positive or whatever can be made good, can be made popular, I should say, and can become cool, right? It's just what the gatekeepers or people that sit in these seats, what they want to push out into the world. So that's the way I look at it. And I think I will do my part as always, right? I'll do my part as always to try to make sure I hold myself accountable, with the stuff that I put out into the world, right? And say, okay, like, what is this gonna do, right? Because there's so many things, sometimes I'm like, man, because you decide the temperature of the room, if you have the thermostat, and the thing is, you can't control a lot, because the moment it goes out, everything that you put out into the world takes on a different life as well. So sometimes the way that you transmit something is not the way it's received. I find that on this channel, sometimes you put something out with a certain intent, people misunderstand and misinterpret, so it takes on a new life as well, right? So, but in the creation process and you putting something out into the world, like, what are your considerations before doing so? And when it gets out into the world, it takes on new life as well, gets into someone's mind, takes on a new form. And so we have to be responsible, man. We have to be responsible because everything we put out is so powerful. The creator, big C, God, created the universe. We, little creators, see every single person that's watching this, every human I'm talking about here. We create things with our actions, our words, our thoughts, our deeds. And if we don't understand that it's that deep, it's almost like a man that, has money or whatever. You don't even understand the importance of the resources you have, and you're just like, just throwing all your money through the window. It's like, you got to understand what you have. All of us, every single person that's watching this, 7 point whatever billion people in the world, creators, man. You got to use it responsibly, please. Okay, last person then I got a jet. So 5 minutes, Dustin, 5 minutes, and then we got a jet.
Hi, Renzo.
What's up?
Well, I'll just go straight into it since I only got 5 minutes. You need to have an intention to go with your work, be it personal, ethical, political. You need to have an intention to go with your work because if you don't, someone else is going to derive one for you, as you've said. That's the gift of interpretation, whether we like it or not. Something inspired you to produce that work in the first place. Thereby, you're communicating that inspiration through your work, or speaking your truth, as the last couple of commentators said. Whether that inspiration can be applied towards something bigger is actually the responsibility of the consumer and the audience. And we see that a lot these days with in the force that is fandom today, such as like Star Wars, Star Trek, anime, all of that, for better or worse. If they can pick up on what you're saying, they'll be able to take it to places you perhaps not even you ever even imagined. Whereas others might use it as a means to harp on what they don't like. Now, I didn't grow up with rap or hip hop myself. I actually started off with the likes of Star Wars, so I'm more into classically styled music. So though I'm not fully engaged with the things that rap music is said to cause, I'm certainly familiar with the outcomes of it. While they are linked, I'm not entirely sure I would say that I'm not entirely sure that I would say
It causes it.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure I would say it causes it. It's certainly something you can get from it, that you can pull from it, especially given the environment you have around you. But I can't say it's a direct cause. I would say it's more of a passive one.
Okay. So that's your position, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Dustin. Thanks, man. Because I'm trying to wrap up. So any final thoughts? That's it, or you want to share something else, and then we're gonna.
That's about it, actually.
All right, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on, man. All right, take care. All right. So that's Dustin's position, guys. I'm gonna have to jet. So thanks for coming on. I know this was there's just so many ways. I might talk about this some more, with more refined thoughts and more, concise programming. But that's the next word too, programming. Programming. Program the populace. But yeah, guys, it's something I'm super passionate about when it comes onto media, and yeah, it's yeah, it might be something that I might take up some more and see. But I guess one thing that one can do is just lead by example, right? So if you're doing something, you just got to lead by example, and I would tell every person, especially aspiring creators, I guess, to don't necessarily go with the flow. I understand it can be so tempting to go with the flow or the copy and stuff. I understand. I've never been that person. I'm not that person, right? But just I can't even the thing you feel that's inside you, right? The thing that's there, that thing, right? Bring it out the way you want to bring it out, but at the same time, think about the impact of it. Of course, consider that, and then you put it out into the world. You get what I'm saying? Like, just right. It's beautiful. It's freeing. And that's how I produce. That's how I do what I do, right? So I'm just like, I'm as raw as maybe not as raw as they come, but I'm like honey that's just right from the honeycomb. You get what I'm saying? So I would say do that, man. Do it your way, bring it out. But also consider the impact, and consider it, man. Every listen you get, every view you get, every reader you get, you know, all that, man. Just think about your words, because just one quote, as simple as a quote. Let me see if I got one here. Let's see. Let me see which one I might show y'all. There's just so much. Oh, this one is so powerful. Oh, look at this. Look at this one. Look at this one. Oh, this one is crazy, and it's hard to live by, but listen to this one. Forgiveness is greater than vengeance, compassion more powerful than anger. That's a quote. A quote. How many words? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 words. It holds so much. It holds so much and can do so much for you as an individual. Just 10 words. I love you, 3 words can change someone's life. Am I making this up? Am I losing my mind? Am I crazy? Am I talking about something that makes no sense? Am I trying to find depth in the mundane? Am I trying to just say, oh, it's deeper than it is? It's not. The very nature of it, that's what it is. Blake, it was mostly, I was talking about the negative aspects or the negative consequences of life imitating art, but there's also positives as well, right? And I'm trying to encourage people to produce things that will cause people to do something positive as a result of encountering that thing. So that's what I'm trying to put forth into the world, because there's 2 ways, right? 2 ways to do it. You know, you have a pencil, you can puncture someone's sclera with a pencil, or you can draw something with it, right? You can decide. So that's pretty much all I'm saying, man. Yeah. So all right, that's it, guys. Bye for now. Thanks for coming on. I know I've been going on for like a while. This was a pretty cool one, I think. So until next time, bye for now. Please think of these things, guys. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Bye for now.